So, with regards to fallen from a few decades ago, uh, well, I mean, yeah, wow, 22 years ago, I think specifically, which is still, a few decades, but not exactly many. Anyway, yeah, it was interesting. It was interesting. So I don't think I've ever seen anything like this specifically. And there's many that just are like called procedurals, or just supernatural movies or supernatural thrillers. I don't think I've ever seen though a cop procedural supernatural thriller. Now I don't know. Some old reviews apparently said that some things were rehashed or something. I don't know what about. As a genre as a whole it is. I don't think I have seen anything like it. I don't know. I'm sure that there might have been. There might be others. I haven't seen them personally. So anyway, on that front, it's unique. Yes, it is. It's unique. I on the other hand, sure enough, the people did mention that it does repeat that song a lot. But it's sort of a theme. So in that sense, it might have done slightly less. But what did do a bit too much, I think, as well, is in the middle there where it kept going from one hand to another. Just a bit too much. I thought, just constantly, from one hand to another. Um, like he could have just went to someone and made them stop and just stared at them in the eyes or something. I don't know, but it obviously was the moment when it wanted the audience to really know what this is about, because until that point it's just slightly strange. It's never too obvious what the mechanics are specifically. But then, it becomes more than obvious. That's the problem. So it would have been better if it did slightly less as well. So okay, all right, maybe it went from one hand to another in the station there. But other than that, maybe but more back and forth, like it's some sort of volleyball thing. Um, but otherwise it's still interesting, and there's still I don't know, there's still some strange things that happen. Like it's not very clear how his brother ended up like that. I mean, what did he just possess him and then he ended up here? Yeah, or I guess he just a wolf. I, I mean, a needle was shown, but it's not quite obvious where the needle was brought from. I mean, so, as far as I know, the only thing he has is a spirit sort of thing, right? Not, I don't suppose that you can carry a needle and a spirit or something. So, unless his brother was, a needle user before that, but then that would necessitate that the other couple as well were, unless somehow he found a needle somehow. Anyway, so some things are sort of over explained and some other aren't, sort of, but anyway, other than that though, it's still interesting. The um the ending isn't too bad either. I mean, I like the twist. The music is quite appropriate for what they show. I liked how they changed direction when it comes to someone else's. At first I thought it was just trying they were just trying to show someone else's consciousness, or like how a serial killer would look at their victims. But no, we find out it's a demon from ancient times. Of course, sympathy for the devil is very appropriate in this sense, although I think Azazel isn't specifically Satan in the sense which the devil would normally refer to. Yeah. That bit in the bus, though, when he goes and asks Anan, who conveniently is just sitting nearby, what apocalypse means. I mean, I don't know. Maybe in the 90s people didn't know much about, just I mean, apocalypse I thought was a fairly common word, so I don't know. It's strange. Yeah. uh, it's it's interesting at any rate. It's certainly uh, more than I've seen recently. And apparently, I noticed it's by the same director as Fracture. I've liked Fracture as well. Slightly different. It did have slightly more of a thriller aspect to Fracture specifically. Yeah, this one didn't that much, but still did a bit. But otherwise, yeah, it's interesting certainly. Um, yeah, the violence wasn't necessarily out of sort of, but he should have figured it out really at that point when he shot the teacher. He should have figured it out that uh, he could have figured it out when, I mean, not at the very beginning, obviously, when the execution happens, but later on when he realized that he possessed him. He should have realized that, obviously, since that guy was dead, then he could pass between bodies even if the host died. He should have realized that, and then not ended up shooting the teacher, because just yeah. So there's a few, see, blind spots, it seems, but otherwise it's still interesting. And of course, this is the movie where the gifs comes from, the meme. Every time someone's name is mentioned, people say, well, at least he hasn't isn't died, dead yet. It hasn't died, whoever this person. And Denzel Washington, look of relief on his face comes on. Where that gift comes from. I just didn't know before, suddenly I see it there in this movie. But yeah, otherwise, the movie is quite interesting, yeah, in a way, in a strange way. Yeah. John Goodman interesting as well. It's kind of funny thought that, personally, I first saw him as Fred Flintstone, so yeah, he acted in many other roles. Certainly, I don't quite remember where I saw Denzel before. I don't think I've seen him act recently in any other movie. So it was horror like, as a movie. It wasn't quite, it didn't quite delve into the thing in the middle of Thor where he's searching for books and suddenly there's a supposed jump scare. Apparently it was suggested by the so-called executives. It's a bit lame. Jump scares are always lame, even in horror movies. But it was just so on in this movie, so a bit out of place, really, in my opinion. But yeah, otherwise, it was interesting for its narrative mainly, I think. They did try to question nature a bit, reality, etc. But it wasn't that much. What they could have done, on the other hand, is question, like, more sociologically relevant issues, shall we say, kind of like, whether the execution at the beginning was warranted, or it was really Azazel who really killed, or was it really him? That would have been interesting, if they questioned it. Obviously, yeah, one might say, it's more of a, I mean, I don't know, maybe cops do not question it. But as a movie, it would have been more interesting. Whether it wanted to concentrate on high octane action or whatever, is another matter. But it would have been, always more interesting. I mean, it did try to question just a bit there when, um, Washington and Goodman's characters were talking at some point, but it wasn't quite the kind of questioning that was ideal for this movie, because I mean, even if you just asked, uh, so what difference does the death penalty makes then? If it's a supernatural spirit who can just fly over to another body and keep killing, like what difference? Would have been interesting. Now, obviously, in real life, it's not quite relevant to whether supernatural spirits can go over. Yeah, but there's still issues of sort of where people are criminally insane, or and whether they're responsibly, so I mean there's still issues, but not quite the same. Yeah, it would have been interesting anyway in the context of the movie as well, if they did indeed pose such questions.